So just finishing that thought, that God isn't the one that we need to be concerned about invading our privacy, because God is respectful. Since God enjoys respect, reverence that's due him, he also has a degree, a modicum of respect for us, his creation, and reverence, and deep, profound concern for us. So we should invite the Spirit of truth in to convict us anytime we think we're wrong about something. And it's okay to admit and confess. A lot of people think that's a bad thing, but it's a good thing. It's a growth inducing thing when we are able to admit when we're wrong. So I try to be the first guy to do that. But to finish up this business about the right attitude, so it's important to have a well-rounded basis of knowledge to tap into in order to be empowered to go out and to help enlighten other people about the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, and the kind of attitude we need to cop to make sure, at least to ensure as much as possible, that our salvation is guaranteed. And salvation, I mean that we get to go. We're going to be found worthy to go to that better place, that far better place. That's about 180 degrees different from this one, where there's no concern for money. When we serve each other, it's because we have an instinct to do so that God gave us. So God is deeply offended by this whole idea that we have to serve one another. It's a wonderful thing, okay, that we don't need to be forced or coerced into doing. What did Jesus do when he walked the earth? He was a carpenter. He did something very useful, blue-collar dude, right? And the disciples, a lot of them are fishermen, right? Very productive, very important services for humanity. But often nowadays, these people are paid minimum wage, right? And they can never be homeowners. They're going to be the poor, okay, the lower class, the working poor, the rent slaves, and all that. But we've just got to have the right attitude about this stuff, and we've got to have a basis for understanding. And that's why I'm always talking about economic matters. So I think anybody that's listening to me, and I feel like I'm beating my head against the wall here with the supply and demand thing, but you've got to be able to identify progress. It's got to have a definition, okay? And that definition is just what I explained in as simple terms as I possibly can. The net result of progress in a supply and demand economy is that your cost of living keeps going down. Your cost to survive keeps going down. Your cost to exist keeps going down. Okay, and that's the antithesis of what the establishmentarians want. Okay, that they cannot keep us enslaved by that happening. We'll all be set free eventually. They can read the tea leaves. They can see the end from the beginning. They can see where that's going to lead when nobody cares about money anymore. That's a terrible thing. So they've got to warp all of our minds into believing in numbers, that it's all about just increasing your numbers. I mean, there's this local dispute with this CalPERS. It's some kind of a state union or pension plan union thing. I don't know. But they're worried about their funds running out, how they're going to raise funds. You see, that's how our minds work. We have to think about making more, not about lowering your cost of living and increasing the worth of your dollar. That's like, oh, you crazy wild-eyed pipe dreamer. You know, what are you, nuts? I mean, no, it's all about inflation, facing reality, and just having to chase numbers in perpetuity and keep raising your numbers and look after old number one. You can't worry about other people. Okay, you did the right thing. If your numbers look good and you want them to get better and you're out there pursuing that, then that's the right track, right? That's common sense. That's pragmatic. That's the practical thing to do. And I'm trying to say, look, you can look at this thing entirely different. Just look at it in terms of the worth of your currency by cutting your cost of living. When you see your cost of living fall, your currency just went up, not in numbers, but in worth. So you're more prosperous automatically. It happens naturally if you just don't screw with things. And that's all the government's been doing, is screwing with things. It's artificial, it's manufactured, it's manipulation, it's fixing prices, and it's collusion of special interest groups and all this crap. And it's maddening, absolutely maddening. But just understand, it's deliberate. It's not because they're idiots. It's not because they're stupid. It's because they're evil. And like I say, it's better to be an idiot, okay, than to be evil. Because if you're evil, by default, you're also an idiot, okay? Because only stupid people would throw their soul away and enter hell. So that's why, I've got to talk the way I do. And I'm not judging anyone. You know people by their fruits, you'll know them. And these are the ones that need to be exposed. All the evil politicians that voted for the bailout of '08, okay, those are the ones that signed on to this thing that said kick the can down the road, let the next generation pay for it, keep people enslaved. This is the way the world works. It's sickening. So it's anti-progress. It's regression. And it's evil. So it's going to make for plenty of crime, and we're going to have plenty of homicides related to it, plenty of abortions. So anybody out there that's against this minimum guaranteed income, understand that is one more way to skin a cat. Yes, you need oversight and accountability and checks and balances to make sure you don't get hyperinflation. Yes. Again, it all comes down to oversight by we the people, accountability by we the people. We are the checks and balances. It's a constitution, which is not we some of the people, it's we all of the people. So there's ways to fix this thing. But just remember, if you disagree with, skinning the cat some other way, whatever it is, we've got to reverse this wealth and income disparity. You tell me, what are your ideas? Let's hear you, whoever is listening to me. If you've got a better theater, okay, better platform for getting your word out, a better megaphone, good. Then let's hear what your ideas are. But, we got to skin this cat sooner or later, one way or another. We got to stop kicking the can down the road. This wealth and income disparity is serious business. This exploding poverty is serious business because they're trying to etch it in stone. They're trying to solidify it. They're trying to cement their gains right now. Evil is just completely out of it just rogue, man. It's just out of control. And it's only by the hand of God that we're going to get this thing down. We're going to repress it. And we're going to get it to relent, okay? Because it's going to kick and scream all the way to hell. That's the spirit of the world. That's where these people are going because they don't want change. They don't want universal prosperity. They're anti-Christ in that regard. They're opposed to his will being established on earth, but it must be and it will be. I'm just trying to point out the nuts and bolts of how easy it could happen if the precious government, okay, who's supposed to be you and me, we the people, wasn't fascist and working against the best interests of the people. It'd be great. We'd have paradise on earth. It would be an ideal place without compromise for anybody. That's it. It's an absolute quality I'm talking about, and that's what we've got to shoot for. An absolute quality on earth. And yes, we're going to have to go. You can cut through the paradoxes, understand it, just have the right spirit. Just say, I'm going to grab the bull by the horns, and I'm going to be a righteous person, not a self-righteous person. I'm going to go out there and do God's bidding as his friend, on a watchman on the wall, because I don't want blood on my hands unduly. I have an obligation, a responsibility to warn my fellow human beings, because I am them. They are me. We are one. We are one family, inextricably interconnected. Your welfare is literally my welfare. My welfare is literally your welfare. So we've got to get that, man. This is serious. They've duped us and taken us so badly. This nation has fallen so far. We talk about making America great again. That's going to be a day when a person on a minimum wage job can afford to be a homeowner, okay? All by themselves, a single person if they want to. You're going to be able to save enough without borrowing it. Just remember what you're signing on to. If you're against fixing things, you're signing on to dubious warfare in perpetuity. You're signing on to high crime rates and all the different crimes out there I'm talking about, and all the vices and forms of escapism people seek, all the abortions, all the debt, okay, all of it. You're signing on to the social welfare industry. You say you're not a socialist, but that's what you're doing. You're saying, yeah, it's okay. They created the problems. They made the poverty. And it's okay that we set up this giant behemoth, this industry, this social welfare industry, to look over it. And we just grow that, maintain the problems. And so all these jobs revolve around the problems. That's what you're saying. That's okay. And I'm saying, wow, do you understand if we just ended desperate poverty, not even all poverty? So we don't have to have full wealth equality. That's not what I'm talking about here. We just have to end desperate poverty, and you'll see crime plummet. Imagine how many jobs would be lost right there. Just imagine the judicial industrial complex and how many jobs would be lost there. Just imagine how fewer guys would sign up for going to dubious wars. Okay, I myself tried to join the National Guard on the morning of 9/11. I believed the official story, hook, line, and sinker. I thought to myself, yeah, I considered the idea that this was a false flag immediately. But then I thought, well, who can do research on a 110-story building? I mean, you can't do research and development. How do we build a 110-story building and then fly jumbo jets in it? Could you imagine the expense would be prohibitive, of course, right? So that was my thinking on 9/11. Then I started listening to the architects and engineers for 9/11 Truth. And I realized, oh, it's a big hoax. Buildings don't react like that. Not these buildings when they're hit by. That's not what would happen. These buildings were imploded. But I tried to join the National Guard on the morning of 9/11. I'm not at all opposed to military. My dad fought in the Second World War in the Marine Corps. He didn't actually see combat, but he was prepared to see combat at 18 years old. And so, anyhow, folks, I hope you understand what I'm trying to convey, what I'm trying to impart to people. Because it is very serious that you understand, anybody that would stand in the way of God's will being fulfilled upon earth, and if that includes a minimum guaranteed income, anything to absorb the shock of what we're going to go through when we start getting it together, man. When you see one shoe fall, man, and you see this is like dominoes that are set up like a house of cards, and you realize, oh my God, there's all these tens of millions, hundreds of millions of people just in America, and we've only got what? We've got, 350 million people about in America? But when you see hundreds of millions of people out of that, a couple of 100 million people maybe, doing useless jobs that revolved around the problems, and that we just ended that one problem of extreme poverty, and you saw all those jobs dried up and all these people twiddling their thumbs, looking for something to do, for work. Can you imagine? Could you imagine? And remember, all those people that lost their jobs, they've got a minimum guaranteed income too. And as far as I'm concerned, that minimum guarantee could be as high as affording a middle-class bourgeois life. Who cares? Well, it's nothing off my back. I can have the same thing. Everybody can. And then when we serve each other, it's because we damn well want to. You got it? And then there's all the jobs out there that we don't think of that would fall away. I mean, if your job is InfoWars and your job is just to tell people the truth from the lies, and we got no more lies going on out there's no story to tell. Well, they could do something else. They could talk about surfing or a million other things there to talk about. So, just because you run a radio station doesn't mean you got to go out of business. Being on the radio is something I've thought about. As much as I like to talk, people think, well, that guy had to apply for a radio station. I could take calls. I'd love that. I just absolutely love that. But here's the catch. I am not going to be a syndicated supporter of these sponsors and crap, stuff I don't believe in, advertising for Chippendales or prescription drugs or reverse mortgages and all this crap. I'm not going to do it, man. So, no, I could not work for a radio station. I've got to be utterly independent. That's why I say if I change the name of my channel, it's going to be to Utterly Independent Info, Utterly Independent Education. Okay, because I don't, I mean, if YouTube censors my videos, I guess that's one way that I'm not independent. But as far as I know, they only censor ones where I've got a copyright infringement because I played my music too loud, okay, which is a bunch of nonsense as far as I'm concerned, because I think that under the First Amendment, I ought to have the right to listen to music if I find it inspiring while I speak. But they're going to say, no, I don't have that right. It's absurd to me. It's just absurd. Absurd with all the money these musicians can make when they go out and perform, and they need to worry about that. I mean, to me, it's just promoting it. It's like a compliment. Listen to the music I listen to. Now you go out and buy that music. You like it, you buy it. So it's like a free promotion. It's like a free ad if I'm listening to music while I speak. But no, that's not the way they think, right? So anyhow, I guess I'm about summed up here, and I just really want people to understand what I'm talking about and how it makes sense. It really does. So don't be against God's will being done on earth as it is in heaven, because that's the Lord's Prayer. It's going to happen. It's just going to happen. And there's nothing that can stop it from happening. Yeah, I guess I've talked enough about the stuff I wanted to talk about, having the right attitude, the right spirit, and understanding the difference between being on the side of humanity and being on the side of inhumanity. Understanding that the only true legitimate government is one that embraces all of the people, not some of the people. And how easy it is to be deceived and to be deluded because we see our own self-interest. And even if it's just perception, we see our own self-interest threatened What do they say? Perception is reality. So how people see it, that's the way they're going to take it. That's why so few people would listen to me, because they feel threatened by the things I say. But I'm not a threat to anybody. How can I be when I'm saying that whatever income you have, whatever you have, is going to increase in worth? You're going to be set free, as everybody is set free. Okay? That's the only. So I don't get it. But a lot of people were threatened by the things Christ taught, and there's not much God can do, because if the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth threatens people, what can I do? There's nothing anybody can do. If you feel a compulsion to do God's bidding, to be his friend, to be a friend to humanity, and that's all I really want to be. I want to be pleasing him. I want to help him store treasures in heaven. What are his treasures? The souls of men. So I want you safely ensconced in his protection. That's it. Come out of Babylon, confusion. Come out of darkness into